DAS Talk by Gamma, keeping you connected and protected.
Welcome to DAS Talk, the essential podcast on distributed antenna systems and in-building communication. Hosted by Peter, VP of Gamma, and Philip Nicolas. This Gamma Electronics series focuses on emergency response and safety. Join us as we navigate the challenges of building effective communication systems for North America's first responders. We delve into the advancements in emergency responder radio systems and the transformative impact on new technologies. Tune in for insightful discussions aimed at increasing knowledge and awareness in the DAS field. Whether you're a professional or an enthusiast, DAS Talk is your gateway to understanding the nexus of technology, safety, and communication.
Hey everybody, how are you guys? Today we have a very special episode of DAS Talk. It's been a crazy year now. We're on a couple episodes, and the platform's just been expanding, and we want to thank all of you guys for making that happen. And right now, like usual, we have my co-host, the Vice President of Gamma, Peter. Peter, welcome to the podcast. And Jason over at Jem. He's the CEO of Jem. Jason.
Well, Philip, Peter, thanks for having us. We're excited to be on and talk about the industry and what we're seeing and what you guys are seeing as well. To introduce myself, my name is Jason Leopoldo, and I'm the president of Jem Systems and one of the founders. Excited to be on. We are a distribution-focused business in the fire life safety industry, but we have started to dabble into BDA ERCSys, I would say about 3 to 4 years ago. I come with over 15 years experience in the industry. Prior to owning Jem, I worked for an integrator in Southern California. And so what's nice about Jem, our vision, and let's call it our mission as a business is we've walked the path that our customers are walking, and so we're able to see their pains and what they've dealt with and what they're currently dealing with, and so we try to add value to everything that they're doing. We have not only are we a distributor, but we are a professional services business as well. So we have a full engineering portion of the business with over 100 engineers who provide services on the fire, early detection, BIM modeling, BDA, and we allow our customers to pick and choose whatever support they need from us. So it's been a great, BDA's been a great part of our business. As everyone knows, it's new to a lot of people. And so we're here to bring knowledge to the table, bring support, and see how we can help our customers out.
I'm Nicolas. I also work with Jem. Like Jason was saying, we had my experience as well was being an integrator when I first started, right? And after 4 years of working in the install and all the fire side, now I help Jem on the technical side of the business, where taking care of the BDA, taking care of like aspiration, fire design, and all of other things, but primarily on the BDA side, taking care of the design services, testing, commissioning, and helping out other clients with Jem. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicolas. Appreciate that. That's some great introductions. And I'm very glad that you guys are able to join us today. It's always good to get together with good friends and kind of discuss things that we are truly passionate about and truly love and enjoy. I find that if you don't love what you're doing for work, you got to get in a different business. And some of the reasons why we wake up in the morning and do, we spend more time in the office or in the field working than we do sometimes even with our families. I know that, Jason, you travel a lot.
Yep.
Right. So we just flew back from Miami. We were on the same plane, when we went back to Phoenix. That was kind of funny. So Jason and I got to hang out at the airport together. We gave him a ride to the airport from Orlando, which was from IWCE, which was kind of cool. You've been traveling a lot lately. Where have you been and what have you been doing?
I travel about once a month. We were at IWCE. We do a lot of conferences throughout the entire country. We don't focus on a region or a state, and so we have a lot of the local conferences we go to. We go to CAFA in Southern California. We were at NYFAA up in New York. It's just there is a lot. And IWC was our first. It was our first time actually hosting a booth. It was more successful than I thought it would be. We went last year, and I believe it was during the same time as NFPA. And so we got there, we ran over to the tail end of it, and I mean, it was like an hour before it closed, and so we weren't able to really gauge how successful we would think it would be for us. But we came away from the event very positive. I mean, we had a lot of meetings with whether manufacturers or potential customers, partners, and that's what we go there for. I mean, it's a relationship thing. I mean, it's a relationship and networking. We're not there to, in theory, sell parts or services on site. We're there to build relationships, network, and see how we can help each other moving forward. So I mean, this was our first year where we really went hard on the events as a business. We're doing I'd say about 15 events a year as of right now. But we all know it's tough with families to travel. I have 5 little ones, and so all under 9, and so it makes it even tougher. That's why I joked with you, Peter. I flew in on a red eye, was there in Orlando for the day, and flew home the same day. And so we make the sacrifices, and as you mentioned, we're at work and with our coworkers, in theory, more than we are at home, right? And so we got to enjoy what we love. If you enjoy what you love, it's not work. I think it's truly that's my vision, that's my feeling of Jem and how we help our customers out. So it's been fun. It's been a fun ride, and we're excited for the future.
What do you love about what you're doing?
We've always done everything different at Jem. We've always tried to push the needle, just bring different solutions to the market. Sometimes it's received with open arms. Sometimes it's received with skepticism of just like, hey, does that work? But we've seen from just the results from us as a business, plus from what our customers say, that what we're doing is very different and it works. It's been just a great solution for us. Wake up every day, and we always, my business partner and I, we always say, hey, what is it that really moves us? What do we like doing? And it's really how can we continue to make our customers better? How can we continue to have them succeed more? Because we truly believe that when they succeed, we succeed. And in the fire industry, I always say it's not a sexy industry. I would have never chosen this, right? I fell into it, but if you look, you're adding security to everybody's lifestyle, adding safety. And so it's something that we should all be proud of, right? Everyone from the integrators to the manufacturers. I mean, that's really our goal is how can we make our world safer? And that's in fire, that's in BDA, that's in communication, that's in everything. And so that's really what we wake up for every day.
You know, I agree 100%. And sometimes when you're in the mix of it and there are fires that happen within the business, when I say fires, not actual physical fires, but there are problems or challenges that come up, it can get pretty easy to get kind of squirreled in that direction. But then, you know, when you go home at night and you remember, okay, I do this, and of course you do it because you want to employ people, you want to run a business, you want to make profit at one point in time,
Yep.
hopefully, right? But then that said, you also realize that I'm really making an impact on people's lives, and most people don't even see it or know it because they don't know when they go inside that, well, they could very much not be safe, right?
Correct.
So that cell phone communication in so many instances, or you know, a fire personnel or law enforcement personnel, when they're inside communicating and coordinating those things, is absolutely a must. It's critical. It's something we can't hammer down enough, right? So then when we go through all those fires and all those challenges like you're bringing up, man, at the end of the day, what we're doing is creating an environment where people can be healthy and safe inside and help our first responders communicate. Now, I know that you guys touched on a fire alarm or fire guys who are already doing installs, but they're doing fire alarm stuff, and they're kind of dabbling in the BDA world. And when we say BDA, we're talking about bi-directional amplifier. We're talking about amplifiers that grab RF signals, they broadcast them, and then inside the buildings from antennas on top of the roof. So I want to clarify that. So what are you guys seeing in the market there? And what's going on there? I'm curious.
Yeah. So going back to this, obviously brings me back to when I was on the integrator side. We didn't have a moment where we're like, hey, let's get into BDA, and we just thought about it ourselves, right? We were doing construction projects, and we get to the end of a project and the fire department would be like, hey, you guys need a BDA system. You guys need ERCSys. And we're like, what? What's that? And that's truly what happened 8 to 9 years ago. And so we're like, okay, well, let's contact, we went to Google. What is it? Okay, what manufacturers are there? And we found a couple. Okay, well, let's call this manufacturer and see if they can help us out. And that's kind of how we personally got into BDA. And I'm confident that's how the fire integrators are getting into BDA as well. They're doing projects or they have customers that are saying, hey, the fire department said I need a BDA system. Since it's regulated by the AHJs, the fire departments, everyone in the market, whether it's a GC, EC developer, assumes the fire company is the one to do it. And you monitor, and the fire alarm system monitors the BDA system. So you see a lot of companies that get this opportunity, but they're like, one, it's a risk because I don't really know what I'm doing, nor do I have the equipment to do it, and they need a little bit of help. So that's what we see the most. Our bread and butter as the customer base of Jem is fire alarm integrators, and so that's the biggest portion of customers that we support and we see saying, hey, I need support with BDA. Can you help me? And so that's really the biggest thing. I mean, the fire guys they're monitoring the systems. It's being regulated now for annual test by the fire alarm integrators. And so sure, it's a communications. I mean, there's RF guys that have been in this space for 15, 20, 30 years that are the pros. But what we're seeing in the market is the fire integrators the idea is for them to turn into the pros.
They're pretty much getting it whenever the GCs are asking them to bid, right? It's like a common package that is coming with the fire and BDA together. So they're pretty much we had one client that came to us and said like, oh, for me to bid this fire alarm system, I need to bid BDA together, right? Or I would not even bid the project. So they're kind of getting into that world, being not forced, but in order for them to beat the fire alarm and low voltage or something, they have to beat the BDA together. So we are here to help them out in that sense as well.
So what do you guys think some of the problems are when it comes to a guy put in that situation, like you said right there? So that's a big deal, right? Because what they're saying is like, I'm a fire alarm contractor and I normally install these, but when it comes to RF, it is a whole different world. I mean, it does not function the same. There's interference problems. There's problems where you can affect the macro, right? And then there's I mean, I don't want to get too technical here, but there's a lot of issues in doing that. So what are some of the challenges you see in them just doing that?
I would say one of the biggest challenges is people getting into it and while not knowing what they're doing. Sure, they go get a GROL, but a GROL doesn't necessarily
teach you.
Doesn't necessarily say that you're competent to install a BDA system properly. Sure, they'll go get.
What does a GROL teach? Hang on a second. What is a GROL? Yeah. What does a GROL do? Explain for viewers.
It's a general radio operating license. It's used a ton for like maritime and all that stuff of like radios in the ocean with I believe it's the Navy. I mean, I don't want to get too into it, but that's what I think. I don't want to downplay it, but it doesn't really align exactly with BDA and install. It's a radio operating license. And so we have multiple girls on our team. Nicolas and I both have one as well. And it didn't teach me how to install a BDA properly. And then you get into, okay, let me do manufacturing hands-on, which, yeah, that's a lot better. It's tangible, it's hands-on. But once again, you still need more support when you're going live in the field. It's much different than sitting in a classroom with a manufacturer's rep teaching you the system. So
do you think there's still like this, I don't want to say a disconnect, but I mean, because there are different manufacturers when it comes to training, and maybe some are better than others, and I don't want to knock one or the other, but you show up to a class, and let's just say it's, I don't know, maybe tell me about some of the classes. Are they 4 hours? Are they a day? Are they 2 days? What are the classes like? But you're saying you go to one of those, and then after that, what, you're not good enough, you're ready to install, you can't, what's the deal?
I mean, we host the Fiplex training here. It's a 2-day course, hands-on. It's a great course. I'm not saying it's not a good course, but you can only do so much in the training until going live. It's like learning a language. You can learn a language, sure, in the classroom, but until you actually start speaking it and getting in people's spaces that speak that language, you need to get thrown into the fire. Getting thrown into the fire is actually doing some projects with some support, and then you can really go from the walking to the running. So it's tough to really to say, hey, can I walk out of a classroom and be 100% proficient on how to install? It's not that perfect. I mean, we'd love to say it's like that, but it's not always that perfect.
Yeah, and if I can add in here, like when we did our first design, I mean first BDA deployment way back then, like 4 years ago, right? I'm telling from my experience. So we did a class, but I'm a hands-on person, right? So I learn as I do, and I put my hands on the equipment, right? Um, so in theory, it's you do your class and you have no questions at all, right? The BDA is there, and then you install, you connect all the cables, you make the connections and and everything seems good. And then you go and you start doing testing, and that's where the learning curves uh, go up or down, right? You start doing testing, and if everything goes as planned, then you're good, right? But if something goes wrong, then how do I fix it, right? And then that's the real challenge, and I think that's where fire alarm integrators are kind of afraid of touching BDA, right? Because if something happens, a problem happens, what should I do? How should I correct antenna that's not giving me the proper power that it should be or not? So I think the course is really good. I mean, the training, and only if we had like a place where we could go and learn, right? That would be great on the market, because as of right now, the only training that we get on that it's through manufacturers, right? Um, there's like private classes, why not? But they're not right there, right? Easy for them to go and look. Only if we had one, but that's the challenge. Like, you do the manufacturer certification and you know how to deploy that system, and you learn a little bit about RFs and all of that more than the grow, for sure. But then I think the challenge comes as soon as you install everything. Like, how do I do now? Where do I go if I have a problem? What should I do? So I think that's like one of the big challenges in there in the market. So
I also don't want to look at just like the negative. There's a ton of positives of
yeah,
it, right?
yeah,
Ton of positives in if we look 5 years back, the amount of progress the entire industry has made has been massive, from quality of equipment to quality of personnel to install it. That's just there's been a ton of progress, and so I would say that within our own business, that we all have a lot of problems that we want to fix, but if we continue to see progress, it's success. And so I think there's SBC is doing a great job as far as trying to get out there, get everyone informed, from AHJs to local authorities, the integrators, to bring more awareness, right? Because not all 50 states are pushing for BDA systems as we speak. And so I think there is a lot of positives. There's opportunities for the integrators, which is great. Now it's just getting everyone on board to bring the level of expertise much higher than it is right now, and continue to elevate the level so that once again we have high level of installation, and we have more safety in the market. And that's kind of what we try and do as a business, is support our customers to have a higher level of installation, because the last thing you want is a ton of oscillation, someone turning up a gain, and then taking the grid down. I mean, we have stories of I believe it's Salt Lake City, where buildings were not passing a BDA test. So the companies would say, okay, well, we're going to install a BDA system. They'd go to plan check with the design, and the fire department would say, nope, we're not allowing any more BDA systems because the grid there's too many bad installations, that if we have more come in, the whole grid's coming down. And that's exactly what everyone wants to avoid. And it's exactly what companies like us, there's many other out there that support integrators in testing, commissioning, all that. And that's the benefit, is how can we all work together to provide better safety and better quality to the market.
Whoa, some of the things you just said were pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, so you said Salt Lake was stopping any new BDAs being put in? Now, have they done that?
We had a customer. I don't know where
Or
it
have
stands. I don't know where it stands now. We had a customer who we had a very good relationship, and that's what they told us. They said they had projects. GC developers signed their contract. They were awarded the project. They did the design, took it to the city, and the city said no,
Wow.
knowing that the building didn't pass a test. And so then it goes to, okay, well, they obviously need to fix the situation of the existing systems that are there. And that's the biggest risk is the whole, we don't want integrators or individuals installing a system like this if they don't know how to do it. And if you compare it to, like, we keep going back to fire alarm integrators, a fire alarm system, in my opinion, is more complex and complicated than a BDA system to install. An inertia system is I don't want to say it's simple, but it's much simpler than fire. And so once you get it, you can sprint. And so the idea is, how can we continue to help these companies to be experts so that they can sprint? Because sure, people go, well, it creates more competition because there's more companies out there that can do it. But in theory, there's also going to be more HJs who are going to push this with the owners, the building owners. Hey, you need BDA system. It's just more and more. It's just happening more and more. And so the market opportunity keeps growing as well. So just really supporting these companies to do good work.
Because that's damaging. I mean, that's damaging from a lot of perspectives, in a sense, where if you're doing the work and you are affecting the entire system, obviously, then I'm just taking Salt Lake for an example. I mean, you have guys who are doing installs at one point who didn't do it right, are affecting the whole macro, and they're saying, well, no, we're not going to have any more because the ones we have are causing too much interference.
Yep.
And then that actually, not only does it affect the market, but then it also, when it comes down to it, it also makes people more or less safe, should I say. It makes them less safe because when they're inside the buildings and now either they can't communicate or the first responders can't communicate.
Yep.
And that can be devastating because there's example after example, and I actually think it's very unreported, the amount of instances where communication systems are not working inside buildings. Because you think about, we talk about new buildings all the time. Think about all the old buildings that don't have systems in them and that are failing or can't communicate in. I think it's a prolific problem. Actually, it's a bigger problem than we probably can even fathom. Specifically, when you go into older cities, like older areas like Chicago or New York. I know New York, they only require their ARCS system. It's not even an ARC system; it's an ARC system, and they only have fire who can communicate on the system, and that means EMS and police cannot communicate. Now, don't quote me on that, but that's what I've been told from a manufacturing integrator who specializes in the New York area. And I was like, well, they don't want to share? They don't want to let the other guys get on the system too?
Right.
How does that make any sense? So you're going to go through the work to put in, a BDA, but it's only specific for fire?
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing, So like that on that system. So I think the services that you guys provide seem like they can help bridge that gap, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, great segue. It's exactly what we've built by seeing the gaps. It's a full a la carte model. It's a support system for the integrators, right? So we say, you're new to the market. You guys are great at doing labor and installing. Now it's just having someone act as a safety net. So we do everything from assisting them with initial site survey. So we do everything from designing the systems for them, creating the ROM bombs, and then doing the testing and commissioning at the final stages. And our goal isn't to, hey, how many of these can we do, and have them continue to come back to us every time for the whole package, right? Our goal is, hey, how can we support them and teach them how to fish and teach them how to do it themselves, so that we know that they're gonna push us out of certain aspects of the project. They're gonna say, hey, you know what? We don't need you anymore for commissioning because we've learned how to do it. And that's the point, to be honest. We don't win as a business in one place. We don't win just by doing testing and commissioning. There's many different aspects of it, but we also believe that if we can support them to do better, learn, and be able to run and make money from what they've learned, that we turn into a reference in the market. If they ever need support, they come to us. If they never eat any form of their business, they come to us. And that's the goal. And it's outside of that also, it's the more people we can train, once again, the safer everything is. The safer the market is, the safer the buildings are. And that's the goal. That's our goal, is not continue to add value to our customers, who then can add value to society, and make our schools safer, make the buildings we live in safer. Because as you mentioned, we don't know how bad certain areas are until something happens, right? You hear of fires, school shootings, and you only and things come to light when in these tragic events, right? Where there's no communications for the police to come into an active shooter event. And that's where we as a society need to be proactive and say, hey, let's not wait until things like this happen in our neighborhoods. Let's be proactive and fix it before it happens. But we know how history works, from the airbags in cars to ERCSA systems. I mean, sometimes bad things need to happen for people to start running and saying, hey, we need this, we need this, we need this.
You know, it's unfortunate that you bring that up. It is almost always after the fact, and usually it's reactive. And I've noticed there's kind of two types of people in this world. There's reactive and kind of proactive, right? So, and there's nothing wrong with, even in a business world, you've got reactive people who kind of react to things and they do it and they react right and proficient, and that's good.
Yep.
As a society as a whole, in general, we're very, 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 very reactive. So if there's, like, for example, Uvalde is an example. Well, there was massive communication problems that happened during that time where first responders in different agencies could not communicate. 9/11's the big one, right? That's like the big one everyone knows about. There's others, and then things like that happen, and then we look at, oh shoot, we should actually start enforcing these systems that should be put on the books.
Yep.
So it's usually after the fact. Something bad happens, someone dies, or multiple people die, fires, burn billions of dollars of real estate, and it could have been prevented because, well, these people, couldn't call out when they needed to, or multiple issues on that end. It's unfortunate, but that's kind of the way it is, right?
Yep. I mean, yeah, it's, once again, many states have done a great job at pushing for BDA systems. Obviously, you have your Californias, the Carolinas, Florida, where it's going into every single school. And then once again, we see all these new schools where they're starting to build the rooms a lot thicker in walls. I think we spoke about this a couple weeks ago, where they're making the walls thicker for active shooter events, and the Kevlar in the walls, which then ruin the frequencies even more, the signal even more. And so it's for us as business owners, whether a distributor or as an integrator, it's an opportunity on the business side, which is great, right? But we also have to look at it and say, hey, it's something that's being put in there, that it's not a luxury item. This isn't luxury. This is safety. And so I'm a big proponent of SBC for the reason of how they're going around and trying to, I'm not going to say enforce, but say,
Educate.
hey guys, educate. Exactly. This is what's happening, and this is why we're trying to get it in front of everyone, because it's, all we want is safety, right? We without health and safety, everything else is kind of meaningless. And so,
do you think, I kind of find like sometimes, unfortunately, egos get in the way of the end goal and the end mission? So I feel like, and it can be an ego from multiple different areas. And what I mean by that is like, well, this needs to be done the way I want to do it, versus I want it done, versus, well, the end goal is to get signal propagating properly through the building. So sometimes those egos can kind of expand and become, frankly, a real issue. And because the burden of everything right now, the burden of everything falls on the building owner, everything, right? So if we become too onerous, or our ego's so big that we're putting too much of that burden because just we feel like it's because it doesn't have to be done, but I think it should be done this way. And then your requirements are stacking on, or doubling the cost of systems, or tripling the cost of systems. I see that as becoming like a problem in the long run, and a problem for all the parties in the end. Because what ends up happening is pushback. When there's too much pushback, it's going to feed up the pipe, and then laws will change, and then things that will happen that we don't want to happen, right? So everybody as a whole, what we don't want to happen is regulation to come down to say, all right, we don't need BDAs anymore, bidirectional amplifiers. We don't want ERCs to be installed, because when that happens, then people become less safe. And that can happen if egos get in the way and the burden's too big on the building owner. So I do think there needs to be a balance in this whole thing. Really needs to be a balance.
No, I mean, it makes sense. I think a lot of it too is there's a lot of unknowns still. I mean, you look at a firefighter, right? The local AHJs, the inspectors, it's new to them, right? So a lot of times when they don't know stuff, they don't really act on it because they don't want to act on something the wrong way either, right? And so I think a big push that we all should be doing is the education side of it, working to educate them the good, the bad of BDA, whether it's done right or wrong, and the benefits of it. Like I said, it's all safety. It's all to make society better. We're not here trying to just add more cost to a building owner, which a lot of building owners are like, no, I don't want it. But I think once you start seeing unfortunate events happening, and then lawsuits come up because there was no communication in the building, I mean, it's going to happen. It's the U.S. We live in a society where, I mean, everyone sues for everything, and so safety is number one in everything we do. I mean, you go to construction projects, everything is safety first, right? Everywhere we go, it's always safety first, no matter what you're doing. Because without safety, everything else doesn't matter. So I think we're going in the right direction. I mean, once again, I go to the whole idea of progress. Are we making progress as a society? Are we making progress in BDA? Are we making progress in having more companies who are either experts or seasoned and competent in doing this work and providing this service to the end users? And I think we're going in the right direction. It's just continuing to have the foot on the gas, and all of us doing a good job together. Because in the end, whether you're a manufacturer, a distributor, an integrator, a services company, we're all on the same team.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, and you said you had 5 kids, and I have 4 kids. And so
I won.
I have one daughter. If we're competing, let's. I can always go back to my wife and ask her if she wants to have another one, but I guarantee you she would probably kick me out if I said that, right? So yeah, you got me on that one. So I got 4. I got 1 in college, and then I got 1 in high school, and then 1 in junior high or middle school, and then 1 in elementary. So every level I've got right now, right? And yours are all really young. But when we send them away, you kiss them goodbye, or you say, bye, I love you, as they go out the door. I want them to be in the safest environment as possible, because they spend 6 to 8 hours a day in these places. And it just troubles me when you hear about the stories that problems that could have very easily been avoided. You know, and maybe not so easily. I don't want to say easily, because we all know that the schools have limited funds, and they deal with those issues, right? But we are a piece of that. We're a big piece of that. You know, what Nicolas does, what Jason does, what Philip does. Like you're saying, we're all in this together, and that, frankly, that's the goal, to keep our kids safe. At least for me, that's how I think about it, right? So I want to make a better connector. I want to make a better prep tool so guys can install faster, right? Well, yeah, that's great for the market, but in the end, it's because when we send our kids away to school, I want them to be in an environment where if something happens, I know that EMS, I know that law enforcement, I know that fire can get in, and they're going to be able to communicate and resolve the issue as fast as possible. And unfortunately, we revert back to like live shootings and stuff like that. And I can't imagine how frustrating or difficult it would be to try to communicate with your team members on the other side of a school, and you're like, you guys got to get out, or you guys got to move, and then they can't hear each other, right? And I revert back to the military analogy, right? So when you're at war with someone, the first thing you do is you want to take out their communications. Why?
Because they're blind.
They're blind.
Exactly, because they're absolutely blind. And anytime you talk to a first responder, their backbone is their radio. Every time. It's like their lifeline. They need it. They have to have it, and they need to be able to communicate with it. And what they don't realize is when they're local and they're outdoors, it's usually not a problem. But they get inside, and you brought that up, Kevlar inside
Yeah.
walls. That's insane.
Yeah.
Where are they doing that?
I heard that in Florida.
Jason, and don't quote me if I'm saying something bad, right? But weren't you that said police or something? There's something on the code that if they don't have communication inside, they necessarily don't need to jump
Yeah.
in. Was it
I
something
think that
like
was
that?
I think that was the Uvalde where it's in like the union with the police that if they show up to an active shooter and the comms are down per the
Right.
union, they don't have to enter without SWAT. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure I heard that from multiple people, which
Disclaimer, right? Disclaimer. Don't
because
quote us on this. Yeah, man.
they're part of a union, obviously,
Yeah.
and it's no comms, you're blind, it's ugly, right? It's not safe for anyone, and so yeah, it's a tough spot to be in, and exactly, I mean, if when someone's at war and you take the comms down as your number one thing to defeat someone, then that should be your most important thing when you're at home safe, right? That should be your number one thing. I mean, it's the biggest asset to anyone, whether you're EMS, fire, police, you're going into a building and there's a fire. I mean, without comms, the fire department's at risk, the police are at risk, everyone's at risk, right? So, and it's funny, you were asking, hey, how much do you travel? I mean, last week we were at ISC West in Vegas, and you walk in and you see all this new technology of everything from security to audio systems that pick up a gunshot, and so an alarm goes off by itself and dispatches just off of the noise. AI cameras that are picking that up. So we always think like, hey, how far are we going to go? Because okay, we want safety everywhere we go. You go into an airport, you got to go through metal detectors and the whole 9 yards, right? Sure, you could do that at schools, right? But then we get into the funds, the stigma behind a kid having to go through a metal detector to get into school, right? You think of how far do we keep going with this? I mean, it's not even just schools, it's anything, right? It could be your office building where how many systems do we put in? Do we put a Nurxis system? Do they put in gunshot system? Do they put in metal detectors, right? You think about, I mean, when is it enough, right?
Oh man, I just think, yeah, I mean, I think the idea is it's enough when it probably may never be
Yeah.
enough. I mean, but there should be a bare minimum, right? I mean, and I don't think we're even close to that bare
Yeah.
minimum yet. So that's going to take some time to get there. But I've actually heard that gunshot system
Yeah.
before. I've heard about that. And there's actually all really kind of new tech in that they're using to try to mitigate issues like live shooters inside of schools that I've heard about, like where doors are able to shut and then they prevent live shooters from moving from one region to another region. You can, in other words, put him in a little box and not let this dude
Yep.
out, right? So there's that, and that could probably be integrated in with some of these systems as well. So we can keep going and do whatever we got to do, because when it comes to my kid, I tell you, I'm going to do anything it takes to keep
Yeah,
him
of
safe,
course.
her
Of
safe.
course.
You know, but you know, it's not my decision. I don't run the school, and I don't have the what I say pocketbook, and I say that because I'm from New York originally, and we say things weird out there. So, you know, we don't say purse or wallet. You'll say the pocketbook or
Yeah.
whatever to fund that. But that said, I mean, like, I don't know about you, man. I would do whatever it
Yeah.
takes, right? Whatever it takes.
Once again, I mean, that's kind of what is the I think the mission here. All of us, yeah, everyone runs a business to make profit. Everyone has a job to make money. But we also have to have something else, and I think that is the something else, the safety aspect of it, right? It's going to bed and saying, hey, I had some form of I added some form of value and a benefit to society. And that's awesome to be a part of. I mean, all of us are doing a good job. The integrators, the manufacturers, distributors, like I mentioned, I mean, we're all here for the same reasons. And so, I mean, Nicolas sees it a lot in the field. I mean, he's in the field, and whether it's hands-on commissioning, whether it's on-site testing that we assist our customers with. The idea is to continue to train them as well, and have them run. It's where, hey, don't fish for me, teach me how to fish idea. Where if we teach people how to fish, our customers and all of us can do more. If we have to fish for them, we can only do so much. So that's the whole idea. That's the whole idea of the trainings that many organizations do, the associations. It's really teaching everybody how to fish together. So at the end of the day, we're in a better world.
Absolutely. And that just means that the next time you're in Southern California, we're all going to have to go fishing
go.
together. I guess that's what we're going to have to do,
Exactly.
right? Well, gentlemen, I think we've hit some great topics here. Good discussion. Good, fun, informative time together. I appreciate you guys coming on with us and sharing your message and sharing the vision about the whole industry as a whole has been fantastic. I truly appreciate that.
Likewise, it's been great.
I appreciate what you do for the industry in a whole. Just putting safety first, and that really comes across with what you guys are doing. Where could we find more about you individually, Jason and Nicolas, and in the company on social media?
So, I mean, we have our LinkedIn for Jem Systems. You can go to our website, gemsystems.com. Everything from our contacts there, what we do, services. Like I said, I mean, we have webinars that are coming out that we've been filming, so we're putting that all together on our side. We're a big proponent of going to events. You can see us at a lot of the local events. And like I said, the website has a lot as far as services. You can go there, you can see, hey, BDA services, what do we do? We have a price book there where it'll tell you how much testing is on site, design, everything. So you can go there, our contacts there, you can message us, and I mean, we're here to help.
Peter and Philip, thank you guys as well for your time, for inviting us to be on the podcast. Your desk talk, it's been amazing. You know, all the information, all the big integrators or big personal people, right, on this industry that you guys are bringing over here, all this information and like being a venue, right, for whoever wants to join this market. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. I love the jingle. I think the jingle is just where it's at. I mean, that's just me. I can't help it. I share it with my kids. They hear the jingle and it will pop on randomly. And then the jingle comes on and I'm like, oh, there it goes again. And then my kids are all singing in the background with it. I'm not even going to try to reminisce because I am out of tune every time. But my kids are much better singers than me. And so the jingle is where it's at.
Very cool.
And with that said, jingle play.
Desk Talk by Gamma, keeping you connected and protected.